What is going on, everyone? Hello, and welcome back here to another episode of Next Gen Jets. Appreciate you all tuning in here on the show, and it's our first guest, and it's a great one. It's the king of Jets content creation, Mr. 41K, the man, the myth, the legend, Jake Asman, gracing us with his presence here on the show. Jake, how you doing?
I'm great, guys. It's an honor to join you. I'm glad we were able to get this done. I'm just really humbled to be invited on the show because you guys are crushing it. And once again, I'm doing this because I hope you don't take my job one day. That'd be great.
Jake, we appreciate it. Chris, we're back. We were obviously on last night, so back. Great to be with you now for the second night in a row. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. 100%. It's so nice pleasure to have you on, Jake. And we all kind of met through your show, actually. So
exactly.
It's great to have you.
I'm just glad you guys are coming to the draft party too.
Oh yeah,
we'll make sure they serve apple juice, cranberry juice, Coke, Sprite, whatever you guys want. All right, go crazy that night.
Jack, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me on for another episode. Jake, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm excited to get started tonight.
1,000%. And Jake, somewhere I want to start is someone who was kind of a big talking point at the owners' meetings, and that was Allen Lazard. When I heard Aaron Glenn mention Allen Lazard's blocking, my mind first went right to the Bill Parcells comparison that a lot of people draw to Aaron Glenn. Oh, boom! You want to bring back a big blocking wide receiver. I know you've been pretty opposed, rightfully so, to not bringing Allen Lazard back on this crazy deal he's currently on, especially with Aaron Rodgers no longer a part of this organization. Josh Reynolds is widely regarded as Allen Lazard's replacement, the term we've heard being tossed around. Let's say Allen Lazard takes the pay cut to Josh Reynolds' contract at that 1 year, $2.75, $3 million range. Would you be open to keeping Allen Lazard in that scenario? You just want him out the door no matter what?
I just don't think he is a fit for what they're trying to do, right? They basically have eradicated anyone who's been around the last couple of years that has any association to Aaron Rodgers or the Robert Saleh era and Joe Douglas. And that's just another bad free agent signing and a Rodgers guy. I just don't see it. I mean, he'd have to play for nothing if they're going to keep him. So I'd be very surprised. I mean, they could say publicly what they want, but I mean, we've already seen what it looks like when he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. He was terrible in 2023, and I get it. The quarterback play was bad, but I don't think the Jets should keep Allen Lazard. I think they could find someone that could play his role that won't cost anywhere near as much. And even if he takes a pay cut, I just don't know if that's best for like the direction of the team going forward.
Chris, what are your thoughts on Lazard overall?
Lazard's production as a receiver here has not even come close to great. I think we need bodies in this receiver room, but Allen Lazard is really not a great player overall. I don't know if depending on what Aaron Glenn and Muji will see in him, if he fits their vision. I don't know. I don't think he will. So I don't think ultimately I think he won't be around. But if we desperately need bodies, so I'm curious to see what they're gonna do at receiver.
Jack, do you want to keep Lazard? Are you open to it, taking that large pay cut down to the Reynolds contract range?
I'm not open to it, right? I get we need a true receiver too in our depth chart, and I don't believe he's that to fit it. And I don't want him to be on this team next year, especially because all of the flaws he's had, like Jake said, without Rodgers. 2023, we all expected him to shine with Rodgers as our wide receiver. Towards Achilles, 4 plays into his season. Lazard had arguably the worst season of his career, and he's not recovered since. You can maybe say that he had a little bit of a spurt, maybe from weeks 1 to 4. He shined a little bit there, but not that much to the point where I trust him to be on this team next year. It's just all of his drops, had one of the worst drop percentages in the league. All of his flaws, I don't want it back on the team next year.
This is where I am right now on Allen Lazard. This is someone, if you look at his production without Aaron Rodgers, many teams would not take him on the veteran minimum contract. No, thank you. This is someone who has led the league in drop rate over the past few seasons, has pieced together a couple solid games here and there, but let's not forget, this is someone who hasn't been able to produce with Aaron Rodgers. Well, Aaron Rodgers no longer here, so Allen Lazard, how about you follow him out the door as well? Chris, what do you got for Jake?
So, Jake, do you think it was the right decision to keep AVT at guard?
I really would prefer them to at least give the illusion that he could be the tackle, because I just look at this draft, right? And I feel like they go into the draft if they have AVT as their penciled in right tackle. They don't necessarily need to telegraph, hey, we could take Membu at 7, or maybe the thought process, Chris, is they want teams to think that, and then they're going to take Warren anyway. But I guess we will find out post-draft what the real plan is, because if you go back and listen to Muji's comments is, he's a guard, we're going to play him at guard, but we love his flexibility. So he kind of gave himself the out with that one line at the end. So you could argue either way. I think if the Jets truly wanted to play the draft to its strengths, you could argue that if you put AVT as your penciled-in right tackle, well, then you could go truly BPA at 7, whether it's a defensive lineman, if it's Graham, or if it's Tyler Warren there. And then you feel like, okay, we don't necessarily need to take an offensive lineman in the second round. Maybe we wait till day 3 and we can find someone that is a plug-and-play right guard for us, or we draft someone that is a right tackle, but we're going to play him at guard for the year and transition him over if we don't re-sign AVT long-term, or if John Simpson hits free agency on the last year of his deal. So there's so many different scenarios you could play it out. I just think they have more flexibility if they put AVT at right tackle. Now, if they just don't think he's a great right tackle, I guess that'd be one thing. But, I thought he played pretty well when he was given the opportunity a few years ago to do it. So I'd be open to it. I'm not going to kill them if they don't do it. I still think there could be some gamesmanship with the strategy there before they publicly say, where he's going to play post-draft.
Connor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so where I am right now is this is someone who's thrived throughout his career at guard. I understand why people, like you, Jake, for example, maybe slide him out to tackle, give yourself the flexibility at least. That's more of a premium position for him. What I'm really hoping is he's the starting guard for this team. I mean, the interior of the line last season was stout for the Jets. Why would they want to mess with that? I think you can find a plug-and-play right tackle at some point in this draft. I really like Ozzie Trapillo. His floor for me in this league is really being a swing guy. He has the flexibility on the left side of the line and the right side of the line. He's someone I'm looking for in rounds 3 or 4 of this year's draft. I think it's the right decision because, again, this is someone who's entering a contract year. You could potentially pay him like a guard this next offseason if you want to extend him, yet you still have that flexibility to move him over to tackle. Jake, do you think this pretty much solidifies the Membu pick at number 7 if he's on the board still?
I think that's ultimately what they're going to do. We can't rule out Tyler Warren, but I've been basically on the record with a lot of what I wanted the Jets to do this offseason, and they've done the opposite with almost everyone. So from that standpoint, I want them to take Warren, so I'm fully bracing myself for them to take Membu. I won't criticize them for that pick. I get it. I think that the way the wind is blowing today, 18 days out or so from this draft, I think Armand Membu is going to be the pick when they're on the clock at 7. I still hope for a trade back, though, if that's possible.
Jack?
I don't mind the idea of having AVT play, maybe fluctuate his position throughout the season. Maybe they move him to tackle sometimes. But overall, where I stand on this is I think he should be a guard. I think he has, a lot of he may not have the biggest and longest body to play right tackle. And that's why I think he fits perfectly in guard. I feel like, if they get someone in the draft, whether that be, Armand Membu, someone like that, Josh Connerly out of Oregon in the middle of the draft, maybe you can get a guy like that who's lengthy and who can play right tackle well. We've seen him out of Oregon play really well with his right tackle position. And I feel like if you can trust in a guy like that, just like how we trusted in Olu Fashanu last year, maybe you can create that young offensive line that still has some years ahead for you.
Chris?
So I like the idea of keeping AVT at guard, a position where he's comfortable and has the potential to be all pro when he's healthy. And I think we're fine with having a third round right tackle come in and maybe slide into the starting role, because I think they're going to go Warren. And with Warren, he's a guy who can help the right tackle block a little bit, maybe chip and get open on a seam. So I think ultimately the pick will be Warren, and I'm fine with them taking solidifying right tackle later in the draft.
Jack, what do you got for Jake?
Jake, my first question to you again. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Really big fan of your show. One of my first question I have for you is, what are your thoughts on the Falcons' proposal to trade down 8 spots for a 2026 first round pick?
I do want to say this. I've been asked a lot about that on the show I was doing earlier. It's not really coming from anyone who's a noted newsbreaker. So I think that's just speculation on a possible trade that Atlanta can make and whatnot. That said, I would love the idea of moving back with a team like Atlanta, because if you're moving from 7 to 15, Jack, you're getting really good picks in that process. That's not a steep price for Atlanta to move up almost 10 spots to come all the way up to 7. I don't know why they would be coming up to 7. I don't know what player that they're dying to take. It's not like they're going to go quarterback there or running back, even if they love Genty, let's say, because they have Bijan Robinson. So I do wonder like how realistic that would be. But if you're telling me you could go back from 7 to 15, you're still getting a really good player at 15. Hell, it might still be Tyler Warren in that spot, or maybe it's Colston Loveland, and then you're
Possibly,
getting an extra maybe second round pick this year, or pick next year, and maybe a third round pick this year. Like that to me would be smart GMing by Darren Muji if they did that. So I'm certainly open to it. Like if you're going to trade back, yeah, I don't think you want to trade all the way back and miss out on some really good players, but that to me is like a fair range where like you're getting some picks and you're still coming away with a really good player you feel like at 15.
Yeah,
I agree.
I
You know, I feel like you can also get like a guy like a Emeka Egbuka or Matt Golden around there too if they're still available. Let's say Tyler Warren is off the board, and then I would say Golden's probably my number one option at that point. And I feel like he would still be there if he would at 15, which is good.
Yeah, for sure. And this is what I will say in a trade down. I really, really like that proposal. I don't think that would happen. I don't think you're picking up an extra one to slide down 8 spots, especially in a draft class like this. Overall, the mentality, though, would be to leapfrog the Panthers to try to get Jalen Walker. That's the prospect we're hearing the Falcons really, really do like. Same goes for the Panthers, who pick 1 spot behind the Jets. I really like that because you get an extra first-round pick next year. Well, maybe this team goes, 8-9, 7-10. They piece together an okay season. You still want to you still want to try to get your quarterback in the first round of next year's draft. Well, that gives you extra ammunition to trade up. Or let's say you want to keep Justin Fields and you're in position to draft a quarterback. You still get another chance to land a blue chip talent. I think if you can pick up an additional one in any draft, I think it's a massive plus. So, Chris, I would 1,000% be on board with this proposal.
Yeah, I mean the chance to get picks in future picks, especially a 1, if there's a chance of that, is undeniably a great deal for us. I am a little weary, passing on Tyler Warren at 7. I'm wary chancing the fact that he might go to another team. I really think he's our guy at 7, but getting a first next year is hard to pass up on, especially because if Fields doesn't work out, we're gonna need ammunition to trade it for our guy, hopefully Nico Iamaleava. But that's my guy. But and if Fields does work out, we have more pieces next year to build around him. I mean, if Fields does work out, we have more pieces to build around him. So yeah, that's a deal you definitely take if it's offered. But as Jake said, we don't know if that's coming from a legit source or not.
Jake, I want to get your thoughts here because after signing Justin Fields, there's been a lot of controversy, surrounding if the Jets will draft a quarterback. Are they going to try to make a move with their franchise guy? Is it going to be a day 2, day 3 developmental option? I know you and I'm right there with you. I'm not too high on any quarterback in the high rounds. Even Shedeur Sanders, I would not be interested in him if he fell at 7. And I know where you stand overall on these players, but let's say a Shedeur Sanders did fall, or the Jets really fall in love with Jackson Dart in the first round. Do you think the Justin Fields contract should perhaps deter Darren Muji from trying to go out and get his guy? Or you think, Darren Muji has Zion Shedeur Sanders. He's sitting there at 7. You want the Jets to take him if Muji's in love with him, no matter what, especially it doesn't matter with Fields' contract. Where are you there?
So if they love one of these quarterbacks, then take them. But I think that'd be a bold move to make for a first-year GM who's not under any pressure to find his quarterback right away. They're talking a big game with Fields. Like they think he could be their guy. So I think the reason why they're saying that is twofold. They realize none of these quarterbacks are worthy of a top 7 pick. And I also think even if they love one of these quarterbacks, the guy they love probably won't be there at 7. And I think that's Cam Ward. Notice all the talk at the combine was, well, the Jets reached out to Tennessee to inquire about the number 1 pick. And then I think when it became obvious it would cost way too much for a new regime to make that move, or Tennessee said, hey, we're not ready to talk about that yet. We're still going through our process. The Jets said, well, let's be realistic here. We don't need a quarterback just yet. We're building the roster up right now. Let's sign Fields, who's young. There's an upside there. And it's basically a 1-year deal for $30 million when you look at the contract. So I, to this point, would be surprised. So to answer your question, Connor, if there's, let's say Shedeur Sanders is there at 7, I would hope the Jets could use that as an opportunity to move back and get a lot of picks, especially if it's a team that's coming up from, let's say, the 20s. Let's say Pittsburgh's so desperate to get a quarterback. Yeah. They want to come up. You're getting their first maybe next year in that scenario out of sheer desperation. So like that to me would be the best case scenario for the Jets. One of these quarterbacks does make it to 7, and it sets the stage for the Jets to make a wheel and deal and get more picks.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Joined by our guy Jake Asman, the first ever guest here on Next Gen Jets.
I'm the first one.
First, because we only
Yeah.
missed the fifth episode, I think, of the show, the Sunday show. So,
Oh wow!
the
Well,
first-
you're always live all the time,
first
Connor.
guest.
I mean, you have
Yes.
everyone on. You have all these big names. So I didn't realize I was the first guest on the Next Gen Jet Show. What an honor!
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, Jake. You got any questions for us? Throw them in the chat. Super chats, memberships really do go a long way here on the channel. We appreciate you guys as always.
Do they
Jack,
pay
you
for
got-
your guys' lunch money or like after school?
Yes.
Do we still do after school pizza? That's what I would do with my friends. We'd go to Dunkin' Donuts a lot. What's the
Depends
move
on the
after school
day.
these days? Yeah.
It depends on the day. It
Gotcha.
depends on the
Yeah,
day.
it depends on the day as well.
Sure.
Chris, you got anything else for Jake?
Yeah, Jake, would you be okay with the Jets offering for Kyle Pitts? We know his tight end room is barren and we need help, but that's something we could address through the draft. But trading for Kyle Pitts, kind of gives them flexibility to go elsewhere with their first round pick. So would you be okay with them offering for Kyle Pitts?
It depends on what the cost would be. I'm interested, but he's going into the last year of his deal, right? He's on the 5th-year option, so it's a lot of money for 1 year, and then you don't have him after this year. So I don't want to trade a ton for him because to this point, he's been an okay pro. He's not bad. He's not a bust, but he's a bust relative to where he was picked. He hasn't been this like game changer that he was thought to be when he used the top 5 pick on him. So I'm probably good on Kyle Pitts. I don't know if Atlanta would trade him for anything less than at least a second. And I don't know if I want to do that because the tight end class is strong, and I think the Jets could find some good value there if they don't do it in the first round.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. Yeah. I was gonna say I like the idea of getting Kyle Pitts. I think if they do that, I think that means they're like dead set on taking Membu at 7 or lineman. So I mean, we do need tight end really bad. We saw Kyle Pitts kind of got misused, underutilized with the Falcons. So we don't really he was picked really high. His production hasn't matched where he was picked. So I'm curious to see if there's any potential that the Falcons didn't really reach there. So I don't know where I'm at with that. I mean, I think I'd be okay with it. It would be interesting, but I want us to take Warren at 7. I think he has a chance to be a top 3 tight end in the NFL. So that's where I'm at with that. Connor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is where I am on Pitts. I wrote about it the other day. Conditional 5th round pick is what I do. Turns into a 4th if he hit over 600 receiving yards. That's what I would that's what I would be on board with when it comes to Kyle Pitts, because let's keep in mind this is someone who won the Mackey Award his senior year, who was viewed as this generational talent, the highest ever tight end selected, number 4 overall pick, all the hype in the world, comes in and has a super solid rookie season. I mean, over 1,000 yards, the most for a tight end since Mike Ditka in 1961. Then the production in 2022 slowly starts to go downhill. And now you look at someone since 2022, this is a guy who's averaging less than 40 yards per game. This is someone who has struggled to block his entire career, someone who's not explosive as a route runner. 3 strikes, you're out. I can find someone in this draft, a tight end specifically, in rounds 1 through 4, who I think can do all those things. So that's why I'd feel comfortable giving a 5th round pick. But then if he hits that 600 receiving yard benchmark, I would be more than happy to give up next year's 4th round pick, because that shows that I think Jets were utilizing their tight end a lot and they were treating him pretty much like a receiver, which is a route I definitely want to see this team go down, because we saw what the Lions did, utilizing Sam Laporte on over 86% of their snaps last season. So maybe the Jets could do that with Kyle Pitts, or draft someone like Chris said, a Tyler Warren. I know a Colston Loveland's another very, very high name up on those boards. So I appreciate you all. Let's get to your questions. Let's see. We'll go over to Zachary first, who said, I could see Mason Taylor being our pick in round 2 if we go Membu in round 1. Jake, your thoughts on Mason Taylor? Would you be okay with him in the second round?
He's been a popular mock candidate for the Jets lately.
Yes.
I know Antoine Staley's mocked him to the Jets. I know Field Yates did a 2-round mock for ESPN this past week. Yeah, the more you watch him play, you see the fit. To me, he's probably the 3rd best tight end in this class, depending on who you talk to. So there's good value there, I think. If you were to go Membu in round 1, then you get your tight end in round 2. I think there's a lot of people who would say, yeah, smart, good start to the draft for sure. So I'm totally cool with that.
Jack, thoughts on Mason Taylor?
I think he's a great tight end, right? Especially if you're going to go a guy like Membu or Campbell in pick 7. I think it'd be responsible and smart to pick a tight end at least in round 2 or round 3, whether that be Arroyo or Taylor or Fannin Jr., maybe sometime later in the draft. But I think it's smart that we pick up at least a tight end in the second. Like I said, whether that be names like Taylor, Arroyo, any of those guys. I love Taylor a lot, and I wouldn't be mad about this pick at all.
Chris?
I think Warren ultimately will end up being the pick at 7. So, but if they do go Membu, I think this is a perfect scenario. You take Membu at 7, and then you grab Mason Taylor in the second round. I like that where you're picking him, because I think if you go Membu, you need to dress pass catcher as soon as possible after that. So, and I think pass catcher, tight end, wide receiver or should be the number one priority for the Jets going in, which is why I don't want to take O-lineman at 7. I think we have a good O-line. We really think we need premium starters there. We need premium starters at tight end, wide receiver more. Obviously, you need good players in the O-line, but we have that. We're like one right tackle away, which we can get later in the draft. So I think a priority should be tight end, wide receiver before O-line. But in that scenario, I wouldn't kill them for it.
I don't think there's any type like Mason Taylor, solid football player. I like him. I think the production throughout his entirety of his career at LSU does not meet the second round, especially a high pick in the second round at 42. I don't think it meets those expectations. I think if you don't go Warren at 7, let's say you go Membu. In that case, I would much rather look to a better value wide receiver, whether that's a Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, who's someone I like. Maybe Jack Besh, if you really fall in love with him. I don't think he's going to make it to 73, and the Jets have that gap from 42 to 73. So if you really like him, I'd rather go that route. But let's say you do go a Warren at number 7. I really, really like a guy like Ariante Ursary from Minnesota, who the Jets did have a top 30 visit with. He's someone I'd be highly intrigued by. Those are the names I'm really honing in on here in the second round of the draft. Our guy Rick Kent comes in with 5 gifted memberships. Rick, thank you so much. Those are 5 raffle entries for you. You're the best, Rick. And I'm trying to pull up the names. Jake, I know you did get a membership. I'm just trying to pull up. Here it is. It goes Kevin James, Megan Volger, Addison, Jake, and the Nick Shine Show. Jake Asman,
Wow.
Nick Shine, Addison, among those notable names receiving channel membership. So, Rick, you're the best. Appreciate all your support. You're on the show.
Who's better than Rick Kent? Rick Kent's the man.
Exactly. 1,000%. Matthew Smith comes in with his 1-month member super chat, says, trade up for Ward. Fields doesn't stop that. I mean,
oh my God, give it up, Matthew. You're going to spam these kids' channel too? Good Lord, man. It's not happening. It's not happening.
No,
I don't even think the Titans.
Ward is not even worth it. Ward is not even worth it. I was so high in Fields. I love the Fields move because when there was talks about us trading up for Ward, I was like, no, he's not even worth it. We're gonna have to give up the entire keys to the franchise to get him. So I love that we brought in Fields and we're gonna kind of treat him like a rookie this year, which is why I don't want them to take a quarterback at all this year. I'm not high on any of them. So I really love how I brought in Fields and Ward. Give it up. It's like Jake said, it's not happening. No more trading up for Cam Ward.
I think the Titans are so set on Ward right now. I don't even like, unless the Jets at 7 gave 3 first-round picks, I don't think they're trading back. They literally canceled their private workout with Cam Ward. They're so set on taking him. So I'm 1,000% on board with all you got. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen by any means, nor should it. I just don't think Cam Ward is that type of player for this team. Clancy comes in, says, I still want Milroe in the 3rd. He may not last that long, though. I mean, Jake, this is someone who you're literally just throwing a pure, dart at. This is someone who you really need to develop into as a passer, but certainly has the athleticism to have success at the NFL level. Jake, thoughts on, maybe you throw a dart at Jalen Milroe?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do it in the 3rd, just because unless the Jets get extra picks, I think pick 72 has got to be a player that could help this year's team. But if they took Milroe, you almost understand it because, best case scenario, he's probably like what Jalen Hurts is, or a version of Lamar Jackson. Like, he's a freak athlete. He might be one of the best athletes just of any position in the draft. So if they could develop him into being an all-around quarterback, then, yeah, he could be a star. And I don't know if the 3rd round is the spot for him. I could see him even going earlier if there's a team that falls in love with him. But I don't know if the Jets are going to be the team that's going to take that shot. But I don't hate the idea because I do see like the style Fields is as a quarterback. Like, it'd be a very similar offense for Milroe to kind of learn as well.
That's what I was going to add, because I had Michael Nania on Friday night, and he pretty much said the same thing when it came to like going with if you were to take a developmental quarterback, Milroe would make the most sense because, and then the second he said that, my thought went right to Tyler Huntley and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Tyler Huntley backing up Lamar, so when Huntley would have to come in, you wouldn't have to change the style of offense. For example, like Kyle McCord is someone I love, but going from Justin Fields to Kyle McCord is a massive change of pace, 2 completely different skill sets. One is going to beat you with his legs, and then one can't beat you with his legs, and he's a pure pocket passer. Jack, you got any thoughts here on Jalen Milroe?
I agree with your take, right? Because if you're going to get a quarterback in this draft, which I don't want them to, I'd rather save that pick for next year. But if they were to get one in the middle of the draft, round 3, round 4, whatever that may be, I would say you go after the quarterback that best fits what you're going to run as an offense this year, right? Because I believe the New York Jets are going to run a run style offense this year, whether that be options with Fields and Allen or Fields and Hall. I think they're going to go run heavy this year. And if you're going to get a quarterback in this draft, you got to get a guy like Jalen Milroe. He's mobile, he's athletic. I think that's just best fits your offense if you're going to go after a quarterback this year. You have to get one that fits your offensive scheme.
Caden comes in, says, do you think the Breece trading rumors is all smoke? He put out a tweet about it earlier today, Jake. I don't know if it's all smoke, because if you look at the contract and stuff coming off the year he was, it would make sense why his name would be, dangled around in trade talks.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to trade him. I don't think there's smoke to it. Like, I think it's like informed speculation, just looking at his contract, looking at the value of the running back spot, looking at the down year he had, the perceived class being as good as it is, like Gentry maybe being like, I understand why people have connected the dots. I don't think personally they should trade him, but I don't know if it's like made up rumors. Like, there's no one saying the Jets are shopping him. I think it's just like informed speculation.
1,000%. Now, Jack, I've talked to Chris a ton about these rumors. Thoughts on the Breece Hall trade rumors and what you think a fair return would look like?
Although I don't think the Jets are going to trade him, I think a fair return would probably be around a 3rd round pick, maybe, or maybe a 3rd round pick going into this season if we were to trade Hall. Because you also have your 2 other running backs in Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, who you could trust to lead this backfield this season. And I feel like the Jets aren't so dependent on Breece Hall. I would say if the Jets were very dependent on Breece Hall, maybe they would ask for a little bit more, but I don't think that's the case. Aaron Glenn has made it clear that he wants to utilize all 3 running backs on this team, and basically what I'm saying, right, is because let's say Breece Hall was really the only running back on this roster that had talent. I feel like the Jets would be asking for a little bit more, which is why I think they're only asking for just a 3rd round pick here. This what I would assume, actually.
Jake, I want to get your thoughts on two of the 2 other Jets running backs, really, because I think Braylon Allen is getting a lot of this love, and I'll be the first to tell you right now, I don't think Braylon Allen's a bad football player. I mean, this guy is 20 years old. He still has all the time in the world to develop into a power style back at the NFL level. Do you think it's fair to say, though, Jake, if you look at his overall production last season and compared to the way, fans continue to hype him up, you think Braylon Allen's 2024 campaign was a little overrated?
Braylon Allen's campaign or Breece you're talking about?
Braylon Allen.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. He flashed a little
Yeah.
bit. Isaiah Davis had that one game against the Dolphins where he looked pretty good. But I go back and look at the total stats and the yards per carry. It wasn't like these guys were like unbelievable. And I think they flashed. There's talent there. I think the scheme was horrible. I think the coaching was a major issue with the running game. So I expect it to be better, but I think this idea that like the Jets in-house could already replace Breece Hall's production, like I don't buy that. I think you're making a mistake if you get rid of a guy who, a year ago at this time, we thought would be the first pick in every fantasy draft and would be one of the best backs in the league. He was coming off an ACL injury and was 2nd in the NFL in 2023 in yards per scrimmage and like ended the year on an absolute tear. So I think Breece still has that capabilities to be an elite player. And I don't think you just give up on that guy because, he's in the last year of his deal. Like, if you're trying to change the culture, and the way to do that's to win games, this guy could help you do that for this year. Then you figure out his future after that.
I really want to see more of Isaiah Davis, Jake. I think this is someone who flashed in a somewhat of a minimal workload, provided you value as a pass catcher and a receiver. My question to you, though, overall is, Aaron Glenn kind of spoke about how they're going to utilize all 3 running backs. Do you have faith in this offensive coaching staff to really carve out a role for all 3 of these guys?
No. I got to see it, like I hope Tanner Engstrand is, certainly, highly regarded, but he's also never been an offensive play caller before. And you have a lot of inexperience on that side of the ball. So, they're saying the right things, and I know Glenn believes in them. I hope, I've been burnt too many times. Like, you guys are still young, so you haven't gone through, the pain that some of us older Jet fans have gone through. And I hate even being like an older Jet fan, but like the last time the Jets were in the playoffs, I was a sophomore in high school. Like, I'm almost 10 years out of college now. Like, I can't do it anymore. So I got to see it, man. Like when I was growing up and I was your age, the Jets were in the playoffs a lot in the 2000s and like in the championship game in 09 and 10. And, it's been so bad. So I got to see it. I mean, I hope Glenn hired a great staff and can turn it around. But until I see it, I don't feel like this team's going to be exceptionally coached. Like, show me, and then I'd be happy to praise him and hope that happens.
Our guy Knob comes in the chat, says, do you think that even if Justin Fields plays any good, it's still a priority to trade up for a quarterback because Fields is already a known quantity? I know Chris is I don't even think it's the ultimate Aaron Rodgers truther, the biggest Justin Fields fan who has a Justin Fields jersey. Chris, thoughts on this comment?
I know I like Justin Fields more than most. I think if Justin Fields leads you to the playoffs this year and throws more than 20 touchdowns and less than 10 picks, that's worthy enough to show that he had untapped potential, and he's still developing as a passer, and he could show you even more. So I think at that point you build around him, and at that point you don't even need to trade up for a quarterback next year if he shows you that you can win around him with this team. So I think Justin Fields has a lot of tools, including his athleticism. We saw in college his ability to pass the ball. Obviously that hasn't translated due to that could be to many reasons. One, because he had no O-line in Chicago. They completely neglected O-line over there in Chicago. So a quarterback can't learn how to play quarterback and go through progressions with a place with no O-line like in Chicago. And also in Pittsburgh, I strongly believe that their coaching staff was telling them to play conservative, to check down, which is why you see on film him not throwing to open receivers down the field. So Aaron Glenn has mentioned that he knows Fields has been misused and how he's going to play to his strengths this year and let him play the quarterback position. So I'm excited to see how he does this year with hopefully a much better coaching staff and better weapons and a better O-line than he's ever played before.
Yeah, Jake, what do you got there overall? I don't think even if this team gets into the playoffs with Justin Fields, I don't think you build around the guy and dub him your franchise quarterback by winning 9 games with a guy like Fields. I'm not there with Chris on that.
Well, I think it depends on what it looks like, right? Because is Knob Deep's name? Knob Deep is also not named Chris, right? He's just named Knob Deep.
Yes.
Okay.
I was talking about what Chris said.
Yeah. The way I look at it, I got it. I was like, Knob Deep, his real name is Chris. I don't even know what Knob's real name is. He's been commenting on my show forever. I have like mixed thoughts on what this would be because I'll give you an example. When the Buffalo Bills ended their 17-year playoff drought, Tyrod Taylor was their quarterback. I think they went 9-7 that year. They made the playoffs, but they knew to get to the next step, he wasn't going to be the guy. Like, he wasn't old at that point. Like, he was probably around 30 years old, maybe a little younger. But they knew there was a limitation to what he was. But, they made the playoffs, great, all that. And then they traded up for Josh Allen. Like, Alex Smith took the Kansas City Chiefs to the playoffs a few times. Well, they knew they weren't going to go all the way with him. So they needed to make that move to try and take it to the next level. What did they do? Well, they traded up for Patrick Mahomes. Same thing with, the Ravens at the end of Joe Flacco's time. Like, they were still in the mix, competitive, but they knew Flacco was on the back end of his career. So they traded back into round 1 to get Lamar. So I feel like it will depend on what it looks like for Fields. Like, if he goes out there and plays like Baker Mayfield did in Tampa, he's your guy. You keep him. But if they're winning, which is being well coached and he's okay, but he's kind of managing the game and there's someone they might like next year, you got to consider still being aggressive and going to get your guy if that's the case. So it's not just to me the record. It's like how they're getting these wins and what he looks like in these games, right? Like if they sneak into the playoffs, but he's great in the playoffs, that's going to influence the Jets' thoughts. Another example on this is Sam Darnold was great in the regular season till the last week. And then the playoff game, he played poor. Guess what? They moved on from him. I guarantee you guys, if he was excellent in that playoff game, they probably would have kept him. They would have found a way to make it work for one more year. It's why the Packers couldn't get rid of Rodgers the last couple of years, because even though they drafted Jordan Love, Rodgers won back-to-back MVPs. They couldn't move on from him. So it's going to depend on what it looks like with Fields playing to determine if he's their guy or it's just like a one-year bridge.
Jack, what do you got there? Do you agree with Chris? Or are you taking kind of Jake's side there?
I could see both sides really, right? Because if you want longevity on this team, you really have to go think long and hard about this decision. Although I don't agree to take a quarterback to trade up for one this year, because I think you have so many other necessities to get to first, whether that be tight end or the offensive line to get through. And even receiver to get through at 7. Maybe you can get one next year in your draft. But I feel like, Jake, with all of those quarterbacks you listed as an examples, like Alex Smith, Joe Flacco, I really think the common factor there was their age, right? You knew that Flacco or Smith wasn't going to get you 6 years, 7 years of great football play. So that's why they got these young guys here. Justin Fields, however, he's only 26. So I feel like if they could utilize him well, they go 9-8, 10-7 this season, which is highly unlikely. I think they're going 7-10 or 6-11 this season. But let's just say they do have a good record this year. I could see them getting a quarterback in this draft, although I don't want to believe it as much as other people do, because like you said, Alex Smith, Joe Flacco, all these guys, Tyrod Taylor, they were aging, right? And I don't feel like, and Fields is still very young. And I feel like with all of his athleticism, you have to use that, right? Because of course, Alex Smith and Joe Flacco are not mobile quarterbacks as well. Excuse me. And in today's age, you need a mobile quarterback in this league, and that's why I feel like that's also a big reason why they took the next step and got these more mobile, athletic young guys in the draft.
Jake, your guy Alan comes in the chat, says, I would love a 4th draft piece in the top 75. Best way to do that is to trade Breece. I would also take a 4th for Quincy. Glenn covets a big linebacker to complement a speed linebacker, signed Bentley. I'm not even going to touch the first part because I've touched on it so many times. The second part, I would not take a 4th-round pick for someone who was an all-pro 2 years ago, and I think you can get a bigger linebacker in the draft. I think that's Kobe King, someone you can get in the 5th round from Penn State who's 6'1", 258 pounds. This is a guy you can plug in as your linebacker, 3-year linebacker, 4 is kind of a depth piece. Jake, I would not take a 4th-round pick for Quincy Williams by any means.
Does anyone love trading away any good players the Jets have accumulated more than Allen? I mean, it's just like, give it up, dude. Like, stop.
Jack?
I think Quincy is, just like you said, he was an all-pro for this team. I don't want to trade him one bit. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a great player. Although he may not be the biggest linebacker in the NFL, I still think he's proved himself enough to be a solidified top 15 linebacker in this entire league.
Chris?
Looking at this Jets team for the past couple of years, we've had talent, and Douglas was nowhere near a good GM. I'm not even coming close to saying that, but he put talent on this team, and the problem hasn't been not having any good players. It's been coaching. So the fact that you're rushing to get rid of all our talent is crazy to me. People talking about there is all this Breece trade talk. You keep the guys you have. You can't judge any of their play based on the horrible coaching that we've had. So I'm in the realm of let's see what these players do this year with hopefully much better coaching.
This is what I'll say about Quincy. I want to keep him this season. I don't know if I want to pay him next offseason. This is someone who's going to be 29 years old next offseason. You kind of got him for those 3 really, really solid years of his career. Do you really want to pay someone like an all-pro linebacker who's about to turn 29 years old? His speed's declining. How is he going to, you're going to pay him that lucrative 3-4 year deal? Jake, let's say Quincy goes out. He has a solid season. Maybe not an all-pro season, but, maybe a similar season to this past year, like a solid above average linebacker type season. Would you be on board giving him a multi-year extension next offseason at 29 years old?
Yeah, it depends like how much money he wants. What I think they could do is they could probably give Quincy a raise now and just tack on 2 years to his deal. That will take him through, his age 31 season. So 29, 30, age 31. And I still think he'll be a productive player at that rate. Like maybe you give him a raise for this year and guarantee his money for next year, and you see what happens in a 3rd year to keep him happy, keep his brother happy, keep everyone kind of locked in. You have the flexibility to do it. I think there's a way to get something done with Quincy without having to extend him to, multiple years. He's, to me, still an ascending player. Like, he's still really good. I think he's a leader. I think he is still someone that you want on your team. Like, I think him and Jamie and Sherwood form a really nice duo together now. So I'd look to keep him, not trade him. 4th-round pick. That's not good value at all. Come on.
Yeah.
You're not getting someone in the 4th round who's going to be a better player right away than Quincy Williams. So definitely no there for me. Guy J3 Siblings comes in, says, or trade back and get Colston Loveland, who's 3 years younger. Jake, would you be open to trading back? Let's say you pick up next year's 1 and a 3 from the Steelers. You slide back to 21, you take Loveland. Is that an okay scenario for you?
I'm okay with it. Obviously, if you're trading back to 21, you're getting a lot, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So to me, it's more about just getting the boatload of picks than it is necessarily who the player is at that point. Obviously, you want to take a good player there too. But yeah, that to me would be awesome. Great value. I don't know. Hot take. How do we know Loveland's there at 21? He can go higher than that.
Good point. Chris, how about you?
I'm in this scenario. I'm having a hard time passing up on Warren. I mean, you got Fields. You're talking him up like this. And you have to give him good playmakers
Colston
with this.
Loveland.
Yeah, I know, but he's probably. What if he's not there all the way back at the Steelers pick? So I think it's the safest scenario is just to pick Warren at 7. Now, ultimately, I think that's what they're gonna do. I have confidence in that, and I think that's a great pick. You're getting extreme value with everything he brings to the table. So I mean, getting a 1st-round pick next year, you have to extremely consider it. But I don't like the idea of people just overlooking Justin Fields and saying, "Oh, he's just a bridge." Like all these coaches are talking him up, and he has potential. But I mean, you got to put playmakers, for him to throw the ball to.
I mean, Chris, there are other playmakers in this year's draft who are not named Tyler Warren. I think it's, So you're saying you would not take a first and a third round pick, an extra first, a third round pick, and you'll throw in 2 firsts to slide down to 21 because you're worried about taking Tyler Warren?
Tyler Warren can be is going to be a top 3 tight end. He has the potential to develop into a top 3 tight end. I'm saying I would take the first round pick next year, but I'm going to have a hard time passing on Warren.
Our guy David D, our Lions fan, comes in with 5 gifted memberships. David, thanks so much for all your support. Ken, super chats, memberships, guys really, really do support the show, so I appreciate you as always. But if you can't, it's all right.
Baby.
Yeah.
These kids need lunch money.
300.
Just smash the like and hit subscribe, guys. That's completely free and it helps us grow just as much. We only have we'll end up with one with this one here for Jake. He said Hennessy Heisman comes in with his 3-month member super chat, says, "Hey kids, who is our wide receiver 2? Great show. Keep it up." Jake, I'll throw it to you first. Who is the wide receiver 2 for this team next season?
Well, I don't know if he's on the team yet. I think it could be someone in the draft. Right now, I think it's Reynolds. I mean, based on how they've operated, based on the complete lack of any idea we have for what Malachi Corley is as a player at this point, I think we know what Xavier Gibson is at this stage. Like, I don't think Lazard's on the team. So we know Garrett's the one. And then I think right now, by default, it's almost Reynolds. And then we'll see. I think ultimately who is their second leading receiver, there's a good chance that player's not on the team yet.
The second, yeah, that's tough. I'm gonna say the guy who finishes second in receiving for this team next season. It's so tough. If they draft him, it's gonna be Harold Fannin Jr. because they're just gonna treat him like a big wide receiver. They're gonna put him in line, and he's just gonna burst out of his stance and get passes 35 yards down the field. I mean, I see you guys smiling, but this is someone who forced the most missed tackles among any tight end in college football last year. Posted up over 130 yards against a top defensive unit in Penn State. So this is someone who's a legit playmaking tight end, someone, despite his size, I mean, obviously being 6'3", 230 pounds, you're going to have a hard time blocking in line, but this is someone who still has the potential to develop as an inline blocker. So that's the guy I have. I think if the Jets draft him, he's going to be the second leading wide receiver on this team behind G5. Chris, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I agree with Jake. I don't think our wide receiver 2 is on the team yet, whether it be someone we're going to sign after the draft or someone we can, pick up in the second or third round. But so I think who will ultimately finish second in receiving for us at the end of the season is Tyler Warren or what's his name, Breece Hall. But so obviously Garrett 1, Tyler Warren 2, then Breece Hall 3 would be completely ideal. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Jack?
I think they're gonna go a young gun here at receiver 2. Like Jake and Chris said, this guy's not on our team yet. I'm gonna go with either Trey Harris from Ole Miss or Jaden Higgins in the second round. I think those 2 names really appeal to me a lot in this second round, and I feel like if the Jets can utilize them well, I think they'll be your wide receiver 2 by the end of the season.
1,000%. I mean, I think those are all top names. I think this Jets team should certainly look to go after. We'll wrap with this one here from Rick to end the show. Says, will the Jets keep Lazard or cut him after June 1? I mean, their only chance right now, Jake, is to cut him after June 1. Do you like the finances, though, that come along with cutting him after June 1? Is there anyone you may be eyeing who might still be available in free agency then the Jets could maybe pick up?
Well, it's not even after June 1. To me, it's more like after the draft when the players who are still out there, you no longer have to worry about a comp pick being attached to them. Like the comp formula is done as far as like how it factors in. And I think it's a big thing for the Jets to get a comp pick in next year's draft because they lost Reddick, they lost Kinlaw, and all of a sudden we're like, whoa, they might actually get a 4th-round pick for that next year. And that recoups the 3rd they now don't have in 2026 because they made the Hassan Reddick deal. So I think that's a priority for them. So a name to watch is probably any free agent wide receiver that's still out there post-draft, depending on what they do in the draft. Like if Amari Cooper is still out there, I'd take a flyer on him. Tyler Lockett's still out there. I'd take a flyer on him. Like to me, they still need another legit pass catcher. And I get it. You tried it with Mike Williams last year, blew up in your face. He was shot, but that doesn't mean you can't try it again with someone of that ilk afterwards.
For sure. When I think right now what this team should do, I think if you're just looking for a pure player overall to sign after the draft with no comp pick, for me, it's without a doubt Zadarius Smith, a veteran pass rusher who has a direct connection to Aaron Glenn. I wrote a story about this about, I think, 3 weeks ago now. This is someone who can help stop the run for you, someone who's going to get you double-digit sacks a season. Isn't going to cost you the house given the fact he was released. I would 1,000% be on board with trying to add a guy like Zadarius Smith after the draft. In free agency. So, hey, there's still a lot of unknowns with this team, less than 3 weeks away from the draft. You just got to hope this team can go in and, fill as many holes as possible. And they can be fun to watch for the first time in a while, Jake. Really the first time in my entire lifetime, hopefully. But, Jake, on behalf of Chris and Jack, we really can't thank you enough for coming on. You got any final words here before we wrap up the show?
Once again, don't take my job. All right. That's all I'm asking for. You guys, there's plenty of room for you in the content creator space, or who knows, what the next, 10 years will look like in sports media. But whatever it is, you guys are going to be at the forefront of it. And don't take my job. That's all I'm asking for.
Jake, we really appreciate it. And wow, thank you so
Hey,
much for the
Jake.
5 gifted memberships, Jake. You're the best. Appreciate you as always. I really can't thank you enough for hopping on with us. Jack and Chris, you got any final thoughts here? Jack, how about yourself? I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Jake, thank you so much for coming on to our show. Really loved having you on. Connor, thank you so much again for this opportunity. This is an awesome opportunity for our show, and I think we're all doing a really good job at it. But Jake, job one day. I need my apple juice at lunchtime, so this is why I'm doing this for some money. So again,
We'll
thank
have
you
it
guys.
at the draft party for you, Jack. I'm glad you guys are going to be there. Whatever you want. You want apple juice, soda. Maybe we'll get some Lunchables for you guys. Whatever you need at the draft party, we'll make it happen. All right.
I think Jake West threw around a suggestion of a playpen. I think that would be a great addition to Clinton Hall if that was
All right.
if that would be possible. Chris, you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, man, Jake, it was a pleasure having you on. Your show became a way for me to cope with how bad the Jets were playing midseason. So, you're a big fan of your show, and it's a pleasure having you on.
Thanks, guys. Well, Chris, hopefully, one day the show will be like a party, all the time as the Jets are good. That'd be fun.
Well,
I can't even imagine the first show after a Super Bowl.
Oof. I
Imagine
hope
what the
to see
views
it.
would be like. Imagine what the
You have to
views
do a
would be like.
24-hour stream.
Yeah, we'll be live. I mean, I don't know. Even talking about it just feels so crazy right now, but I hope so. I hope I get a chance to do that show post Jet Super Bowl win. I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Bobby would get my
That's-
phone taken away at school again if that happened.
Yeah. We appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Chris Grasso, Jack Cotter, Connor Long, joined by our guy Jake Asman, signing off here on Next Gen Jets. That'll do it for us. JETS. Jets.
Jets.